Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Results Mastery Podcast. My name is Steve Mills, and I've been hosting the podcast now for many years. When I first started out, I was just getting a few people to each episode, and one of the best things I ever did was to link my podcast to places like Amazon Music and iTunes and so on and so forth. When I did, it just blew it up. It really did. I went from a few hundred people viewing my podcast to around about, well, somewhere between 7 and 10,000 people per episode. So, it was just an absolute no-brainer. And, it's such a fantastic tool. If you've not got a podcast right now, then like, why? Why wouldn't you get one? It costs next to nothing. It's a great way of getting people to know, like, and trust you. And, I fully recommend it. I really do. I think it's great. It's a great way of, as well, of passing on information. I'm just coming up to, I think it's the 1st of May. I'll have been in business for 30 years. Can you believe that? I know I must have started very young, I think. But seriously, it's amazing how the time has gone. How has it been 30 years? I have got no idea whatsoever. But it is, and let's look forward to the next 30, hopefully. Not sure I'll make that, but we'll see. We'll see. You never know. You never know. But anyway, wanted to talk to you about something to do with that, really, to do with, my experience. And I've got for you today what I'm calling 30 years of brutally honest business advice. That's what I'm going to try and give you. I've got 10 key areas that I'm going to talk about. And it's not going to be like a 5 minute episode. This is, I don't know, it might be 20 minutes, might be half an hour, but do you know what? It'll be half an hour full of packed great value, which is what I do with all my podcast episodes. This is not about me trying to sell you. This is about me trying to sell you on the value that I create. So I call it, help, trying to get people who want help by actually helping them, physically helping them, giving them some great advice. And they think, do you know what? I really need more help from Steve. So please sign up to my podcast, firstly. Go and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, then go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got loads and loads of episodes. I think I've got something like 360 podcast episodes and over 1,500 YouTube videos. Can you believe that? Again, you work that out over the years. And, it's a really interesting concept. I think, this idea of how long I've been in business and what I've done in that time as well. It's really interesting. I feel that I set out with a goal. I come from a background, you may know, as an international sportsman. And when I was an up and coming sportsman, I figured out that when I was literally, I think about 15, I figured out that the best way of getting good at something is to find the best people and spend time with them, do what they do, and you get the same results. Many years later, I learned that Tony Robbins calls that modeling, modeling somebody else. And that's what I did in marketing when I started out in business. I thought, right, who's the world's leading marketer who I can learn from? And who else is there up there, that are, seriously successful? Not somebody who's, a lecturer at a university or at a college or something like that. I wanted to learn from people who are actually talking the talk, walking the walk, investing money in marketing, and so on and so forth. And I came up with probably a fairly comprehensive list now. I would probably say there's about 30 of them, strangely enough. And those people are all people who I've learned a phenomenal amount from over many, many years. And I've probably spent I don't. Oh, I'm going to say I like the word 30 at the moment. I'm going to say 30,000 hours. You work that out into days and weeks. This is a phenomenal amount. This is like 3, 4, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not quite as intense at the moment. Although I will tell you, keeping up to date with the modern digital marketing is an absolute real challenge at the moment. You can imagine what's going on in the world of AI. There's like 20 new sites out every day almost. There are 10,500 AI websites right now, and most of people only know of one or two, ChatGPT and perhaps two or three more, maybe. So there's a whole world out there for us to discover, and we need to do that one step at a time. Okay, so I'm going to hit my list now, and I hope it's of value. I'm sure it will be. And I know there's things that you're going to think, well, I already knew that, Steve, and that's true. But my question to you is, you may know it, but are you doing it? There's a lot of things in here that and you should really do it, and you haven't done it, or perhaps you haven't done it as well as you could have. You could have put more time and effort into it, and you've done an okay job. And as we all know, what rewards do you get for an okay job? In fact, let's start at the bottom. What rewards do you get in life, in business, in sport, in relationships, in your health for doing a poor job? Well, the answer is a lot of people say they get poor rewards. If you're not very good, you get poor rewards, Steve. No, you don't. You get pain, severe pain. You behave badly in your relationship. That person is not going to stick around. You're going to get something called divorce, which is one of the most expensive things in the world, and I should know. But also, your health, even more important. You do a bad job with your health, you're not going to be around. You do a bad job in sport. Most people who play sport play it at a very basic level. They're not very good at it. Only people who put the time, money, and effort in tend to get the rewards. In a tournament like a Wimbledon, everybody loses apart from one person. Only one person wins. Every single other player in that tournament is going to lose. They may do well, might have a few good wins, get through to the quarters or whatever, but ultimately only one person is going to be the winner. The next one is, going to be second, and so on and so forth. I always remember somebody talking about Usain Bolt. Apparently, when he won the Olympics, he won the 100 meters in something like 9.8 seconds. I made that up, but it was about that. And the guy who finished fourth came in 10.01 seconds. So he was like 3/100ths of a second slower. That guy got to remember that he was in the Olympic final. He didn't get the Nike contract. He didn't become world famous. He didn't become a celebrity. He got to be the fastest or the fourth fastest human on the planet. And all he really got was the memory of being there. The guy who won bronze did well. He got the bronze medal. Silver got the silver medal. But all the glory went to Usain Bolt for winning gold. And, not everything in life is like that. But, my point being, we need to be focused on what we want if we're going to achieve it. So, anyway, let me go into my 10. Okay, number one. Have a plan with written goals. You think, oh God, he's not going to talk about that, is he? Yes, he is. Yes. It's so incredibly important. People with goals, on average, produce 10x, 10 times more money. They do 10 times better at sport. They're 10 times better husbands or wives or partners or whatever. You got to have goals. It's as simple as that. Research, you talk to everybody and anybody. Now, that doesn't mean you need a 40-page business plan. There's such a thing if you go on to, I don't know, somewhere like Google and type in one-page business plan. and that's exactly what it is. It's a one pager, but we've got to have a plan. And I remember a very good friend of mine who I've also learnt quite a lot from. He's not like one of the world's leading experts in anything, but he's a qualified accountant and very switched on business advisor whose name is Bob Harper. I remember years ago him saying that business plans are a waste of time, but business planning is everything. And I really believe that's true. It's not so much having the plan, having the written plan that I've got here. What really matters is sorry, can't say it, is the process of planning. That's what's really going to get you some business. So we need to have a plan. That's step one. If you've not got a plan or you need to improve your plan, if you want to talk to me, actually, I've got some really cool it's called entrepreneurial. What is it? It's EMS, Entrepreneurial Management System. It's called 90. Go and check it out. You can talk to me about it, or you can buy it through me. I can resell it you, or you can just buy it from them. I really don't mind. So just Google 90.io, I think it is 90.io. So that's the word 90, not the number. I'm sure you'll find it. If you can't, just give me a shout and I'll help you out. Okay. So that's goals. Second, measure. You cannot manage what you do not measure. How many times have you heard that? It is so incredibly true. Okay, so you need to start measuring. Now, what do you measure? We know you probably measure your financial numbers, and that's good. Hopefully you've got a good understanding of your accounts, because most businesses don't have, by the way. My accountancy friends tell me that most businesses spend less than 5 minutes reading their end of year accounts that tell them how well they did last year. And they don't have up-to-date management information. And if they did, they don't look at it. And if they did look at it, they don't fully understand it. How good are you at reading a balance sheet? Go to your software, assuming you've got financial management software, print out your balance sheet, and then see if you understand it. And if you don't, you got to, you can't go through life and business without understanding that. Again, there's a guy, I'm just looking over at his book now. Keith J. Cunningham wrote a fantastic business book called The Road Less Stupid. Right, and he talks about financial awareness, operational awareness, marketing awareness, legal awareness, and so on and so forth. And do you know what? It's quite an expensive book. It was about 25 quid. But what you've got here is a world-leading expert putting all his knowledge into a book, and you can access that for 25 quid. What a no-brainer that is. But then you've got to do the hardest part, which is read it. I'm a little bit lazy. What I do is I buy the book, and then I also buy it on Audible. And then I can listen to it and make scribbles as I'm going along. Like I highlight things and stuff like that are the main parts, the main things I need to focus on. So that's the way I do it. You can do it whatever way you want. So measure. What else are you going to measure? You're going to measure your sales and marketing results. The big picture stuff is how many meetings did you have last month? And how many does that compare to the month before? Are you going up? You're going down? You're going sideways? What about leads? How many did you create? Did you convert all your leads into meetings, or only half of them? What could you do to improve the number of leads that you turn into meetings? Where did all those meetings come from? Did they come from networking, from your website, from word of mouth? Did they come from LinkedIn or emailing or advertising or attending exhibitions? Where did your leads come from? Because without that, how do you know where to spend your time, money, and effort? Did they come from your podcast? If they did, well, we perhaps ought to do more podcasting. If they came from a webinar, We ought to do more webinars. If they came from exhibiting, we need to do more exhibiting. I know this is, plain bloody obvious, but it's amazing how many people don't do it. That's the real key. So, make sure you take action. Make sure you measure your sales and marketing results, because without that, you don't really know anything, is the truth. You don't know what actions to take next. You don't know what needs improving. You don't know what needs removing. You don't know what you could try in order to move forward. So please, please, please measure your results. If you don't have a system right now for winning business from referral and you implemented one, how much more business are you going to win than you would if you just hoped that people would recommend you? Do you think you could do better? I know you could. I know if you had a system that involved two or three different things, you could double, triple, or quadruple the amount of business that you win just purely from referral. And yet, 99% of the businesses that I speak to, certainly before they start working with me, don't have a system for doing that. And it's just absolutely killing them. I just don't get it. Okay, next one. What are we? Number three. Marketing focused. We've got to be marketing focused. We've got to focus on marketing. There's only two ways of making more money in your business. One, you can reduce costs. Two, you can increase sales. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else. Right? So you can reduce costs today. You can save some money somewhere, 5%, 2%, 10%. But, there's a limit. You've got to spend something. And even if you didn't spend anything at all, it's still restricted to the amount of money that you turn over. So what we want to think about, therefore, is being marketing focused, marketing and sales focused specifically, so that you can become better at marketing, better at creating leads, and better at converting those leads into sales, because they're the only two ways of doing that. That's not quite true. The marketing side breaks down into something I learned from the world's leading marketing expert. There's a guy called Jay Abraham. He said there are only three ways of growing a business. Number one, you get more customers in the door. Number two, you increase the average transaction value, how much they spend with you, basically. And number three, you increase the frequency of repurchase. So if we were selling, I don't know, a supermarket, I want to get more people in the door. I want to get them to fill their baskets more or with more expensive products. And then I want to get them to come back and buy only from me again and again and again. So we've got a lifetime value of a customer. I go to my supermarket once a week. I spend at least £100, and I do that for the next 10 years. The value of me is, reasonably significant. So that's that. That's being marketing focused. Now, when we focus on marketing, we also need to focus on the results that marketing brings. Because often, in marketing, you can do marketing and you can get poor results, you can get good results, you can get excellent results, or you can get truly outstanding results, really, really good results. And it just depends on. Really, I'm going to say it depends on your experience, and that is true in some way. There's definitely a level of experience that would enable you, like having me in your corner, I can help you get to that, you know, the marketing that works quicker than you could if you've not got my level of experience. You'll try it and it won't work. You'll try it again, you'll try it a different way, and you try it a different way. And if you keep going, eventually you'll find what works. That's almost a law of life. With me, you can cut a few corners. I would say, though, there's no guarantees on the first go I'm going to get it perfect, but I'm going to get it pretty close and then work on improving it and improving it and improving it. I remember one example from my past many years ago. I worked with a company who sold these big conveyor belts, you know, the type of thing that does recycling. The cans go off here, the bottles go there, the paper goes in the other side, and so on and so forth. And they sold them into local authorities for 2.2 million pounds. And they were advertising on the back of this magazine, costing 2.5 grand a month, this glossy magazine that went out to local authorities. And they told me this was literally my first day working with them. They told me that this was, you know, being a waste of time. They were thinking of stopping doing it. And I said, okay, so what do you want to do? Do you want to try another month, see if I can get it to work? They said, okay, yeah, let's do another month or two. I said, okay, great. So anyway, long story short, I changed the headline on the back, which was the name of the company. I changed it to local authorities save five. No, sorry, let me get this right. Local authorities save 25% on recycling costs. Now, most local authorities costs were around about 10 million a year for recycling. Okay, so they'd save in the first year the cost of the equipment, and this equipment lasted for 10 years. So you don't need to be an accountant to see they were saving £2.5 million a year for 10 years. So it was a pretty good deal, 25 million quid they were going to make for an investment of two. That's basically what it was. So I changed the advert. That month, we made two sales of 2.5 million quid. In less than 10 minutes, I worked out how to make them £5 million in the first month. I should have been on commission. I really should have. But you know what? They paid me well, and, you know, pleased to help them. Okay, so work on improving your results. There's always something you can do that you could test in order to improve those conversion rates. Okay. Next, focus. Let's just talk about focus. A very good friend of mine, again, another very successful, very wealthy friend of mine, whose name is Andy Tiong, Chinese guy, came to this country without any money whatsoever, literally sleeping on his sister's bed, sorry, on his sister's settee. Eventually, when I got to know him, I went into his office and he was talking to me. And he was trying to get me to invest in properties, which I've done. I've invested in several properties, and he was trying to get me to do that. And he took me down to this property, this really nice, exclusive block of, I think there were 32 flats. And he said to me, you know, you need to buy one of these, Steve. And I was thinking, all right, okay, I don't really know. Should I, shouldn't I? I was a little bit unsure. And I said, so are you buying one? And he said, no. I can't do the Chinese accent very well. I'll give it a go. He went, because he did talk like that with a Chinese accent. He said, no. He said, I buy either 31 of them or 32 of them, dependent on whether you buy one. So basically, he was buying all of them if I didn't buy them, and if I did buy one, he would buy the other 31. And you know, it really comes down to you know, is focus really. And he described focus as saying, follow one course until satisfied. I remember him telling me that. You know, focus is follow one course until satisfied. And do you know, there's I think one of the mistakes that I see often are people who behave like butterflies. They, you know, from a marketing point of view, they try Facebook and in 6 weeks they decide, well, that's not working. Let's do LinkedIn, and that's not working. Let's try email. Oh, that's not working. Let's do Google AdWords. Oh, that's not working. And all they do, it's like me going, right, I want to be a Wimbledon champion. Let me try and play tennis. And I try that for a couple of months, and I go, do you know what? I'm nowhere near. I'm going to try and play something else. So I'm going to play table tennis. So I try that for a couple of months as well, playing once a week, and that doesn't work. Again, it takes time. So whilst I do believe in what I'm going to say to you next, which is I'm going to talk about multiple streams of income, I would say, it would be good advice, I think, if I said to you, have a look at everything that you're doing right now in terms of marketing. So you've probably got a website, you're doing social media, you're doing emailing, you may be going to networking events and so on and so forth. So you're perhaps doing 4 or 5 different things. However, what I'm going to suggest is work out which one on a scale of 1 being awful, 5 being average, and 10 being world class, which ones are not working as well as they could, and also which ones are working really well. Then I want you to pick one. I want you to follow one course until satisfied. So you're going to pick one and you're going to work out what you need to do in order to get that working as well as possible. And then when you've done that, you're going to pick another one and you're going to get 2 fantastic streams of income. And then you're going to get another one. And then guess what you're doing next? Fairly obvious, yeah? You're going to get another one. And in the end, perhaps in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, you're going to have 4, 5, 6 marketing streams working fantastic again and again and again, ideally on autopilot without you having to be there and do anything. Perhaps you develop a system, then employ somebody to do your social media, but you don't want to employ them until and unless you've got a system in place that works, that is what I call proof of concept. Right? It's a term you may not have heard in marketing. We need proof of concept. If you said to me, "Do you think I should do LinkedIn, Steve?" I said, "Well, have you got proof of concept? Do you know it's going to work?" Well, no, no. Okay, so what can we do to test that then? What can we do to try it? What do we know about LinkedIn? What works on LinkedIn and what doesn't? We need to put, it's not just a matter of signing up to LinkedIn and start posting stuff. That doesn't work. I can tell you that. What does work is basically picking up the phone and calling people that you're already connected to and you've already got a relationship with. But that's another story. We'll talk about that another time. So yeah, let's just talk briefly about multiple streams. So I've given you the concept of it. You're going to have 4, 5, 6 ways of getting to market. You don't want one. Let me give you an example. Why not? Let's say you're going to a Chamber of Commerce event. That's the only way you market your business at networking events, let's say. Then all of a sudden, 2 competitors start going to the same event as yours. All of a sudden, the number of leads you're getting goes downhill. Or perhaps you're doing Google AdWords and without any intention, you do something that upsets Google and it bans you, which is very, very easy to do, particularly on Facebook, by the way. I've been banned a couple of times on Facebook, and always without really realizing. They just ban you. They don't say, "Oh, you're doing this wrong, Steve. Can you stop doing it, or we will, have to ban you." No, they just ban you. Okay, but you can get it reprieved, and I've done that. But certainly, that's something you need to be aware of. And if you're getting all your business from Facebook advertising, that's all your business gone, literally overnight. So make sure you utilize multiple streams of it income. That's really, really, really important. Another thing is to get good people on board. My dad always taught me you're only as good as the people who work for you, and that is so incredibly true. However, what you don't want is a people-driven business. What you do want is a systems-driven business. Let me explain the difference. It's actually explained in another great book that I've learned a lot from called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth, with a subhead, Why Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It, written by a guy called Michael Gerber. I strongly recommend you go and buy that book. You can buy it on my website, but do you know what? I really couldn't care less. Just go and buy it on Amazon. That would be probably easier for you. If you want to buy it on my site, you can do. But do you know what? Just go and buy it. But more importantly, more important than buying it is reading it. More important than reading it is implementing some of the ideas. And in there, Gerber talks about systems. He talks about uh, building a systems driven business so that, let's say, for example, I've got a sales guy, great guy, knows his stuff. He's creating sales left, right, and center, going great guns. And I'm going, keep going, keep going. You're doing great, and, I think he's great. I pay him well and so on. Anyway, one day he says to me, Steve, he said, I got some bad news. He said, I'm going to leave. I got a better job. I got a job working for what is your competitor, and they're paying me twice as much and offering me shares in the company and a company car and a this and a that and X amount of holidays and blah blah blah. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to leave. Well, that's all right if I've got a system in place, if I know what this person does, if I know what he says, if I know what his sales system is, because I can train somebody in that system. Right, they might not be as good as him to start with, and they'll need training like we all do when we start a new job. But it's a lot better than having, what am I going to do now? Well, get somebody else in, and they have a system. Everybody has a system. They have a system of what they're going to say on the phone, what they're going to say when they pick up the phone, how quickly they're going to follow up, and so on and so forth. But it might not be as good as my current guy. So we need to have that absolutely nailed on. So you should have a system for everything, I believe. A system, a process for doing your search engine optimization, a system for what you do when you go to a networking event. What do you do before the event? What do you do during the event? What do you do after the event? I'll give you an example. You'd think when people get leads at networking events, you go to a networking event, there's 50 people there, it's a chamber of commerce, you have some conversations, it all goes well, you exchange business cards and promise to keep in touch. Guess what happens after the event? Nothing. In my experience, going back 30 years, I've been to hundreds of networking events. I've met thousands of people, and in round figures, how many of them do you think have followed up with me within 24 hours, 48 hours? Zero. None of them. Not one of them. Even though they've said they would. Even though I was sort of semi-interested in buying something from them. How bizarre is that? That's just like a really, really poor system. And, we need to look at that seriously. Okay, the last one I'm going to talk about now is, again, this is another one from the E-Myth. Gerber talks in the E-Myth about the three departments that we've all got. Every business has got three departments. Imagine you're sat there, you're the managing director of your own business, and you do all the strategic work of that business. And then underneath that, you've got a operations department that does all the work of the business, whatever that might be, whether it's cutting hair, doing HR, cutting grass, repairing cars, providing coaching, whatever it is, that's the operational side. Now, most businesses are pretty good at that. They've been a garage mechanic for 30 years and now they're running their own business. They know how to repair cars. They've been doing it for 30 years. Okay. whatever it is that you do operationally. However, we got a problem. Financially, most business owners are financially illiterate. There, I've said it. They do not understand the financial side of their business. They've often done little or no training. They've got an accountant who tells them how good they did 18 months ago, you know, and 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 that's one of the reasons why 80% of businesses go bust within 5 years. 80%, guys. Poor financial management. And then the other department, and the other reason why they go bust, which is an even bigger reason, is marketing, sales and marketing. Lack of sales is the number one reason for business failure. If you've got enough money, if you've got enough sales or profitable sales, you can survive anything, can't you? You can sort your finances out. You can hire a finance director, or a part-time finance director or a bookkeeper. You can sort that out. You can make sure that's all okay, as long as you got enough sales in your business. And if you haven't, you can't. It's as simple as that. So that's what Gerber says. He said, the two biggest reasons that businesses go bust, and 80% of them do within 5 years, is poor financial management and poor sales and marketing. And by the way, if you're thinking, well, that's all right, I'm on year seven, in the next 5 years, 90% of the 20% that survived the first 5 years will have gone bust. So if the first five don't get you, the next five definitely will. Which is, to be honest, one of the reasons why I'm pretty amazed and very, very pleased and proud that I've been going now 30 years. 30 years in 1 month. I'm recording this on the 1st of April 2025, and on the 1st of May 2025, I'll have been doing what I do for 30 years. So that's it. Went on a little bit there, but I hope you found it of value. I enjoyed doing it, and I'll be doing it again pretty soon. So feel free to get in touch. If you want to book a meeting with me, I'm very open to it. What I try to do is to provide some real value, talk about you, your business, what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, what I could do to try and help. There's no obligation at all. If you want to book a meeting, the best thing to do is to go to my website. You can see that on my wall behind me. Or if you can't do that because you're listening on my podcast, then go to results-mastery.com and get yourself booked in for a meeting. Thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time. Thank you.